We come from the earth, we return to the earth, and in between we guard it.
On this episode of Women Who Hustle, we sit down with Energy Fellow Amina Ali. She unpacks her purpose, passion, and future plans. This is her story.
How are you? Nice to meet you. Done a little bit of research on you, and I'm like, wow, she is so young. She's accomplished so much
Oh my.
in such a short space of time. And I was like, Lord, can I go back to that age and then just post everything that I've accomplished?
Oh, man, no, it's all right. I think you can take it from where you are currently are and
I,
then take it further so that we can follow behind you.
Aw. I guess we all need shoulders to, to stand on, right? Um,
Definitely, definitely. And I really, and I think what ties in so much at times like this is what Maya Angelou says that I come as one, but I stand as
that's
10,000.
10,000, exactly.
So I think it would be so perfect that, like you need people to also go ahead of you, you know? We can't all just be in the same lane at the end of the day, so.
I mean, we can't be like a one-man band. If you
Exactly.
look at
Definitely.
um, if you look at now with South Africa going into our Women's Month, it was a whole um, sea of women who actually marched to the Union building.
As much as we seem united, we are still, very separated. And I think even with everything happening in the world, I think we need more women, to be standing in the front line. We need more women to do because I just feel like we have a very distinct way of thinking, which could be so beneficial to what the world is actually looking for. But the problem is the men. I don't think the men give us a chance. So here we are sitting at the back, I suppose.
Just go back a little bit and tell me about you. How did you get to where you are? How did you get to become this woman that I am admiring so much?
Well, thank you first of all. I actually like. I know I get asked this question so often, and I really don't know how to actually ever put it into one thing. But I guess a phrase that would be so fitting for a time like this is that it was all a one step at a time. Sometimes I knew what was happening, and sometimes I didn't. But everything led me to where I currently am. So I'm from Potchefstroom in the northwest, and I completed my high school there. Then I went to the University of Pretoria. And then while I was there, I got an opportunity to then to work with the United Nations. And at first, I was very skeptical, like. Is this real? Is this, should I not? This is a big step. I'm gonna be on my own. Do I do it? Do I not? And I think that leap of faith was everything that I needed. It literally went from glory to glory to glory to glory. And for me, I think, and at the basis of everything, so is spiritual. Like I believe in God, and so for me, that has always been my center of being, and my drive to everything that I am and who I've become or becoming. And so yeah, so basically, when I got the opportunity, it just leaving the country opened my world up to so many possibilities. The world was so big, but yet it was so small. And then I thought, you know what, there's literally nothing that is impossible. And when I first went to, so there's a time when I went to Kazakhstan, and I don't even know. I think I'd like to think that at the time I was probably like the only black person there. And like how I actually got to feel what Beyonce feels like, when you see Beyonce and it's like, oh my gosh, like, people were so amazed for seeing a black person, in this space. And I thought, you know what, like honestly, and also being a black woman at the time, and to my amazement, so I don't know if you know, the USSR was basically broken up into all the stans. So you get Pakistan, Tajikistan, Tajikistan, all of the stands, yes. So the lady that actually, the ambassador of South Africa to all the stands is actually a black lady, and she's from Cape Town. And when she heard, her name is Kilebohile, and when she heard that I was there, she actually came to come see me, and she's like, you know what, this is what we need to be doing, like black women. And she speaks Russian. You wouldn't like if you spoke to her over the phone, you'd think she's a Russian woman, but she's actually a full black woman who is South African, who has, spread her wings and is doing so amazing, so great. And I think that was such a big inspiration to me because obviously I also did international relations with my law, and and I had this thing like, I actually then want to become an ambassador. I think everyone that studies international relations wants to be a diplomat, become an ambassador and stuff. But it motivated me so much, and I came back home and I was like, wow, like that was so inspiring, that was so motivating. I always wanted to become, oh, I want to become the United Nations Secretary General. Maybe I might be the first woman, maybe I might be the first black woman, only God knows. But I'm ready, I'm preparing for it. And may your whole life prove that God is good.
In talking about your purpose, I see that you obviously studied political science and the whole international relations, etc. um what then got you into energy, the whole sort of pivoting from one place to the other? Where does the passion for energy come from?
Let me take you back to my high school days. So I always knew that I kind of wanted to heal people, right? And I don't want to say my immature thinking, but for lack of a better word, let's say my immature thinking had me obviously assuming that I should become a doctor. So when I was, writing my matric result, my matric and everything, all I had in mind was I want to be a doctor. Okay. So, as you get older, then I was like, okay, you know what, maybe I should become a lawyer and then, kind of help people in that way. I've done public speaking and everything. So maybe I could take my skill, because I mean, if I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to have to be quiet the whole time. And I speak a lot, I talk a lot. So I don't think it's going to be, I'll be talking to sick people. I don't think it correlates. So I thought, okay, then let me then perhaps study law and then advocate for people, advocate for women and fight for their rights and then when I got into the international relations space and I was like, okay, maybe I need to become a diplomat because you help people on an international level and go out to the United Nations, work for UNHRC with refugees, with children, and so I've been blessed enough, I was blessed enough to bump into someone who then told me, because I decided, okay, I want to actually go into the United Nations or go into the African Union so that I can work for an international organization so that I could, give back to people and that way I could be able to heal people, But I always knew that something was always to do with people and, just making their life better. How, I wasn't too sure. So then I came across someone who told me that they just feel that I have so much potential in terms of going into the United Nations wouldn't be quite a great idea for me at the current point because I'm still young. And the UN has a lot of old people, not to say in a bad way, but like it has old people. So I won't really be in a space where I'm with my peers, where I could be thinking with young people where we think alike or we think bigger, greater, because like it just restricts your thinking because I'm always going to be thinking on that level. And so if I don't have a change of ideas, a change of mindset, it's always going to be the same way. So I said, okay, maybe I should go and do something else, like go into something and perhaps and then that's when I got the opportunity to go to work with the African Energy Chamber. So what the chamber advocates for is energy, and energy meaning that Africa has has an energy deficit, right? And what people don't understand is that energy is the core of everything. So for me to work and be a good doctor, I need energy because I need ventilators, I need this, I need that. For me to be a good engineer, I need energy to do this, and that. If I want to be a good advocate, so which where my words, my thoughts, my ideas go out to the world, I need my phone, I need my laptop, but that needs to be charged, which means I need energy. So the core of everything that is going to literally propel and, like, take Africa to its prosperity is energy. And so I decided, okay, so I need to actually go to the bottom of the problem. So basically, that is currently where I'm at. And my boss said it so beautifully that like a realistic approach of energy, of having people to understand what energy is that, you have women in the villages, or like, who don't have electricity. They go out and take biomass to basically cook, right? So that in the long run causes respiratory problems. That respiratory problem, then obviously you'd want to take, if it's your mother, you'd want to take your mother to the hospital, right? And then when they get there, there's no ventilator, and then the mother ends up dying, and then we just live in this constant cycle of poverty all the time. So I, as the daughter, would then have to start cooking for the family. In the long run, I still also develop the respiratory problems, and from there, I go again to the hospital. Hospital is not functioning properly, or I can't get good service because lack of energy. So that's basically the reason why I'm at it. And I think it's also it's also a space that lacks a lot of women, a lot of Black women, or to be specific. It lacks young people, and I think it's also an opportunity for young people to come on, because if anything, we need young people to be at the forefront of advocating for energy deficit, because we need, our lives revolve around energy. I mean, we complain so much about load shedding, but there's no one bringing up um, uh, you know yes, alternative routes, or coming up with ideas of how we can actually, overcome this problem that we find ourselves in.
Do you believe that after this discussion and what we've spoken about, that this is perhaps something that you could be a space that you could be playing in? The whole sort of educational space, maybe not necessarily um, education um, itself, but a mix of education and um, the energy sector that you're in. Or maybe, start some sort of foundation where you are doing exactly what you're saying. Do you think that this is perhaps that opportunity for you?
So yeah, definitely. So I definitely think that I could always, pop it in. It's because I do have a long-term goal. I know it's going to be quite. It's going to sound very crazy, but I've always wanted to be the United Nations Secretary General. So that is basically my ultimate dream goal. Um, No, I've written it down. I've prayed about it. Everything has been this. The deal has been signed, sealed, and delivered. It just needs to come back to me tenfold. And so, yeah. So for me, it's always been about, I always wanted to be, or I want to become. The United Nations Secretary General. Maybe I might be the first woman. Maybe I might be the first Black woman. Only God knows. But I'm ready. I'm preparing for it. However, of course, in the time, I feel like you should always, like I said, charity begins at home. So, of course, as I work my way up to that place, I will obviously do the most that I can for people around, for the community around me, for the country, for the region, for the continent as a whole, as I move over to Lord knows where. I want that for everyone else as well. I want people to, to experience what I've experienced as well. But the thing is, you also need to be able to learn how to also let your guard down, to be able to accept things to come, So one thing is that that's one thing that I would really love to see happening, that Swahili becomes a regional language. That wherever you are in the country, you'll be able to communicate with someone. Because here we are, you go to a different country, the English is obviously, it's a bit stringed off from from the, because everyone speaks English closest to their mother tongue. So, so the way your language will sound, it will be a bit different. And then you have people, making fun of each other because of that, and sort of things. And so I just think like just having one language where we can all communicate, be anywhere in the on the continent, free, what's the thing, the African passport, I'm for it. I'm really for unity. And if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it'll be enough. May your whole life prove that God is good.
I wanted maybe for you to kind of motivate or inspire somebody who is going to watch this particular episode, and maybe just, I know that you're still living your life. You know, you're still young, but that's neither here or there, because I'm pretty sure some of life has taught you a lot of lessons. Um, what what are some of those, or maybe even one of those, depending on how many, um, have affected you, and what have you learned from some of your experiences that have maybe lent itself to your thinking right now?
Well, for me is that I like, okay, where I am currently sitting, I've realized that literally everything works together for your good. But um but it's about really going with the flow of life and not against it, having no regret whatsoever. Literally everything happens for a reason. Every single thing happens for a reason. And you like, obviously when you're in the moment, it's difficult. It feels so, torturous. It just feels so burdensome. However, it's really always for your good. And it's really about having faith. And one of my mentors, when I was back in university, told me that watch and pray. Because literally, if you literally watch and you pray, all your prayers are answered. Because even if it doesn't come to you directly, even if it doesn't come to you directly, you'll come like like a year later, you'll be like, oh my word, I'm actually living an answered prayer, you know. And for me, one thing is to just be grateful. There's so much of blessing and gratitude. Something that I also heard, or I read actually rather, is that it's very prideful not to pray. Like, you waking up in the morning and thinking that you got this day without prayer, it's pride. It's definitely, it's a lot of pride. So you really need to have something that centers you, because if with everything that you're going to go through in life, you know that this is my path back home. Let me, retract, come back home, home as into myself, come back home, anchor yourself, go back to your anchor, and then take the world again. Go out again. But yeah, but for me, there's a quote. So every year with my birthday, so I'm blessed enough to be born in January, so I can actually do it in January for the year. So on my birthday, I start a new journal, and then I have the journal. Basically, I write down everything until my next birthday. And so in that journal, I have a motto that carries me for the year. And and this year, my motto was blinded by your grace. And so everything that I go through, I know that I'm blinded by God's grace. And just coming back with a few others that I've had previously before, I've had, I think in 2018, I had "You are God's child, and in God you move and breathe and have your being." And then the year after that, I wrote, the motto was, "And may your whole life prove that God is good." So that basically carried me. That was basically, so every time anything that happens to me, I come back to my motto and I say, but my whole life has been proof that God is good. For me, everything that has happened to me and through me and for me has been my belief in God, but most importantly, God's belief in me. So that has
Yeah.
basically been, like, I don't have any formula for it, because our paths are all different. But if there's one thing that is going to be the same, is basically the anchor. What is your anchor? What is the center of who you are? What is going to hold you? And for me, that is God. but people have the other centers and stuff. And another thing is that you can tell what you deem as your salvation to what you run to. So when you're hurting, who are you going to be, who are you going to be when the hurt comes, but also who are you, what are you going to run to? There are people who, whatever small hurt that they experience, they take it to Twitter, and Twitter now becomes your center. Even though you're like, oh, but no, it becomes your center because everything that you do is Twitter. Not to say that I have a problem with it, but yeah. So, and one thing for me is that, like, one thing that has always been so beautiful that I have literally pasted all over my apartment is that, and if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it'll be enough. And I think that basically sums up everything. But most importantly, having someone that can mentor you. Sometimes, I mean, you can't do life alone. This world is meant, I mean, we live around people. It's meant to be with people. So you really can't do it alone.